Welcome to Queued Up with Ziz and Pam. In our last segment, I mentioned one of my friends who works at one of the three major automobile manufacturers in the United States. And that led Pam down an interesting road because I basically said, my friend mentioned to me that they're really not in the car. They make cars, but really what they're doing now is there's more of a focus on software. And I found that super interesting because he knows as an engineer that he essentially is putting himself out of a job because of the direction the industry is heading in.
Well, but he's got to upskill, which we all do. It's that idea of, well, that was the set job, but we all it's lifelong learning. We've got to continually upskill.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but here's what's interesting. So as you know, for those of us who are a little bit beyond that age of the fourth decade, we get a little set. We get set in our mindset, and I love Dr. Carol Dweck's work, growth mindset, fixed mindset. So some of us get fixated on the jobs that we've been in because we've done it very well, and talk a little bit more about upskill, but then also like what it requires to go beyond that fixated job and those specific skills.
Well, I mean, we are in, as we talked briefly a couple episodes ago, the greatest transformation in human civilization, according to the World Economic Forum. I mean, we're moving faster and we're changing dramatically. I think the analogy of the car and like a big three, like a Chrysler or whatever, would be a good way to talk about our school system. So when the car companies were in distress because there was so much foreign competition, new types of cars were coming in the market, and they had these huge gas guzzlers. We just had to save those jobs for the gas guzzlers, even though it didn't allow them the time to, well, then I guess bailing them out, depending on how you look at it, give them the time to transform. So our school systems are like gas guzzling cars. We have the nostalgia. We want to save them in their framework. We have not allowed them to evolve. Why? Because they're compulsory. They have a fixed audience. We require our kids to go to school, and they are supported by taxpayer dollars. They have money. I mean, what do they need to transform? The rest of us are doing the fire dance because things are transforming so fast, but the schools don't have to do that. And that's probably a really important thing, but we're still trying to keep the gas guzzling car in an age where we're moving not only from electric cars, but self-driving cars. And technology is changing every industry. It's changing every aspect of our lives, but we can upskill and change. I think that the good news is a lot of these workers are learning to operate equipment that is higher paid, requires a different level of understanding of how their company works and their position with it. So then rather than saying, my job's gonna be gone, it's like, okay, how do I meet this moment? How do I meet this moment?
So that reminds me of Reid Hoffman, who is the co-founder of LinkedIn. He talked about, and this is probably like 8 years ago, he talked about how companies really needed to partner with their employees. And he noticed that employees are only going to be at a company for 3-4 years. And when it was time for them to transition on, the company should help them transition on to make it smoother. It becomes a part of the normalcy of the culture that employees get supported as they transition into a new position at a new place. So that's it'd be pretty cool to have Reid Hoffman for us to actually interview him.
Yeah, it would be great. Yeah,
that would be.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, he was ahead of the ball game and actually just coming up with the platform of LinkedIn in and of itself, and then of course selling it and Microsoft buying it. It promotes what you're talking about.
Well, exactly. We have moved again from these corporate structures, hierarchies, to these spread out networks. Matter of fact, LinkedIn, they're doing a lot of research. They're creating new training programs to help people upskill. They are this platform of social branding for each of us to put out there who we are so that employers can find us. Matter of fact, LinkedIn will say 85% of all jobs are found through networking. And this is what makes me challenge some of these university-related research teams that put out some good information, but also they only judge things on job postings. Well, that's fine. So it's kind of like that old Dewey thing, who wins the election? They're missing that when I get a job, I'm going to have you come on board because I know you. I'm going to go, hey, Ziz, I need this. You know, if I'm a videographer and you do audio, I'm going to like, I need you. I'm building my teams. I'm not posting a job.
Exactly.
Right? So,
Exactly.
so much of the way we work has changed so dramatically. And it's why the skills are short term. It's why constant lifelong learning. We still are operating in this 3-part model of life that you get educated before you're 25, you go have a job, and then you retire. Not happening. It is, whoa, we got to change. But also this is the opportunity to evolve as human beings, to honor and allow everyone in their interconnectedness. I just responded on Twitter this morning because someone posted Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And his highest is self-actualization. And Viktor Frankl said, no, that is not it. The highest, the ultimate goal is self-transcendence. It's taking who you are and putting it out to make a better world. So you discover your authentic self, and then you move into the world to better humanity. That is the ultimate goal.
So I think if I remember correctly, I'm ping-ponging because I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this word correctly, but it's ikigai, and it's that Japanese concept.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
You know, and maybe we'll post that on our website so that people will see it. I love what you just said, though, and touching on the LinkedIn platform and also how jobs are found. So I've had conversations with students and career counselors within schools, and they'll be like, oh, you need a resume. And I'm like, a resume? Are you kidding me? And I always give the example, like if you and I were standing beside each other and you handed me your resume and I didn't know who you were, I'm like, I throw it up in the air and let it fall onto the ground. Because I don't know you. I'm not looking at your resume. Whereas I'll check into my network. Here's the skill sets, the type of person I'm looking for, if they're going to fit into my culture, so on and so forth. And you find individuals and you trust those individuals that they're going to suggest someone because they know them, they know their work.
Well, imagine if we mentored up and did that for disadvantaged youth, that we created, had the responsibility that we understand that, and that our role is to help them as well. I work with youth 15 to 25, and I started a company, which I actually have put on hold because I don't have time to do it, one-on-one working, called Square One Pathways, which is about creating a life, not just getting a job, because it's no longer job life, it's integration of who you are that you bring to the table and all you do. But one of my very favorite mentees, he's just amazing. He's 26, graduated from college, worked in a good job, and he ended up hating it. He's like, oh, this is just, I can't, even though he's making the money, whatever, it just was, he really had things that mattered to him. So we began exploring what he could do. And what was so interesting is there was a shift that happened, not because he found something, but because he got ownership of his life. He got responsibility. He still was struggling to figure out what he wanted to do. He still wasn't doing the cultural, this is what you do. He cares about, you know, surfing and community and connecting people and yoga and really, really this whole integrative. So he was, you know, a hiking guide and looking at different surfing options. But what was interesting is the other day he called and he said, I had encouraged him to look at companies that he admired and to go for it. So what he did is he went on LinkedIn and he found this one company that he really liked. And he said, hey, I'm interested in your company. And I said, well, give them a short video. Don't send them your resume. Give him a video that tells him, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what Isaac Morehouse is doing. He started Praxis, which is this 1-year program where it's for 6 months. And you know, for those who don't go to college, or even those who go to college and want to rediscover, it does sales, operations, management, whatever. And it works with you for 6 months. It's online. And then they place you in an internship for 6 months at a startup, right? And so it's $12,000 for the program, $14,000 on the internship. In 1 year, you net $2,000, but you gain experience in these very needed skill sets. And he has another company he started called Crash, which shows people how to market themselves for today. Because for every job, there's 250 resumes. Algorithm is what gets you the job, not a person. So the algorithm tries to catch certain things, but it's only so good. So really, it is about branding yourself. It is about marketing yourself. It is about having passion for the kinds of companies you want to work for, not just getting a job. Getting a job has not made us a good, healthy society.
So we've said a lot just in the last 3, 4, 5 minutes. We've touched on LinkedIn. I had not heard of Praxis, had not heard of Crash. You know, sometimes I wonder, I'm like, Pam, you're like a landmine of wealth of information.
That's a narrow.
So if we were to take it back and you think about how do we share this information out to parents and or students who might be listening, I know we have our website and we're going to be sharing that information, but I think what we're saying is, like, let's be curious about one another. You know, that's how we met. I was able to read your article. It went beyond, actually, this is what the CEO of College Board talked about. You know, go beyond the learning, you know, take that extra step, be curious. Mm-hmm. We're talking about, it's almost like we're talking about a yoga type experience, so to speak. Transcending yourself and all those type things. But really what we're saying is, like, how do you help the individual become who they are beyond what they think they're capable of?
Well, right. And it's about creating the environment for them to flourish and discover who they are, not try to tell them who they need to be and what they need to do. And this is why the school system, in terms of the framework of focusing on task intelligence, we focus on task intelligence. But the world, both personally and from a business perspective, requires relational intelligence. And relational intelligence is developed through interactions and engagement, which is what you're talking about, engagement with one another, multi-age, multi-settings. This is how we end up gaining our understanding of who we are in the world. And it's why, unfortunately, they show that because kids can't play anymore on the playground, those social skills are developed in the sandbox, as we've known for years. Peter Gray, who does phenomenal work on this,
yes,
is saying, as we've taken away the kids' ability to negotiate and figure it out and hurt somebody's feelings, get their feelings hurt, and all those social skills, play a game where adult isn't telling you the rules and all of that, but you've got to figure it out, who's cheating and who's not playing fair and how you judge that. You know, hello, citizenship, you know, and it happens in the sandbox. So we have channeled everything that we're all just left brain, and that's the value in our society. Could you imagine today if we only had scientists and mathematicians, not grocery store clerks, not nurses, not people to help on the front lines, not people who clean the room? Everybody is valuable.
Yes.
Everybody is valuable. And there's times, imagine if our kids had to start in grocery stores like we used to, right? And learn about what it means to, you know, I remember my daughter got her first hourly job. That was one of the things. I'm like, go work in a company where you get an hourly job when you're a teenager. She was 17. She comes home, she gets her first paycheck. She goes, Mom, this isn't right. I'm like, why is it right? Well, I'm supposed to make, whatever she was making an hour, $10 or whatever. And I go, oh, it's right, honey. That's called taxes. Welcome to citizenship. Now, you got to care about how they're spending it, who you're voting for, what kind of referendums you're giving them, you know?
But that leads into a deeper and further discussion.
Yeah.
And which is a beautiful thing. I mean, so just out of curiosity, one of my first jobs was I worked at Friendly's, scooping ice cream, and but what's really cool about that? I mean, still to this day, I have such fond memories of that. And I can remember, my colleagues, they were also some former athletes. Some played basketball, some played volleyball. They did different things. We were from different schools. So going back to that relationships, it allowed me to be in touch with somebody outside of my typical bubble, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're still friends to this day.
Yeah. And I think this goes to Viktor Frankl, who says values cannot be taught. They must be learned. We think we can teach citizenship. No. Citizenship is learned. Again, we have to get this experiential component into our children's lives, which we as parents have control over. We as parents, I mean, I did it and it was hard. It was countercultural, and it was me dancing with my daughters all the time. When they wanted to go to high school, they wanted to go back to traditional school because they wanted that bigger social network. And so then it was about, okay, pick a school within 15 minutes. I don't care. That was my only criteria, was I was not driving, because I had 3 of them, 3 in 4 years. My daughters are now 19, 20, and 22. But at the time, they were close in age, which meant I was not going to 3 different schools. If they wanted to choose different schools, I was okay, but it had to be within, and that was my only criteria for school.
Well, based on all that we've talked about, I mean, we've hit the gamut from relational intelligence, flourishing, branding, which is something I'd like to hit on for a couple of minutes here, because I think that's so important. It's a subject that I think is really important, and I don't think students understand it per se. We say, what is that cliche when you meet somebody for the first time, which I'm not a big fan of, because I don't think it's really true. I think you meet someone for the first time, you get a first impression. If it's a lasting impression, then you're not asking enough questions. Yeah. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
But let's go back to let's talk more about branding. I do think LinkedIn, but if you mention LinkedIn to a student, a high school student, they would laugh at you.
Yeah.
One of the things that I required of my children, my 3, before they graduated high school, was to have a LinkedIn account. And I just wanted them to have it. And then as they got through college, I'm like, okay, let's play with this more. So by the time you get out of college, you'll have a better understanding of how it worked. And I remember my daughter, when she had a job, she was working at a charter school in DC, and they had her doing recruiting type work, and she had to use LinkedIn. And she goes, Dad, now I get why you wanted me to have LinkedIn.
Yes. Well,
and I'm like, yes, that's why.
Yes. Matter of fact, Dr. I is doing a lot of work right now. We'll do her link where she's showing people about, she's a social media expert. I mean, and she partners with LinkedIn, as you know, and all these other different kind of platforms. But she is talking about social branding and how you teach your kids to operate in this new paradigm, and or help them discover it within it. Again, I always hate the word like teach or help or whatever. So anyway, so that is something we'll refer to people as well. And also on our website, they're going to be able to get the read framework in more specifics if they want it. The transcripts to all of our podcasts are on there. If they want a full transcript or just the highlights, they can go and get that on our website.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you will also have an opportunity to be able to get the tip sheet on the read framework. So we're just asking you to just share your email with us, and we'll definitely get that sent out to you as soon as possible. So like always, if you have any questions or comments, concerns, you don't even agree with us, please reach out. Let us know. We want to hear what you have to say. This is all about having a dialogue and learning from one another. So again, thank you for joining Pam and I on Queued Up with Ziz and Pam.